All right, participants, I'm going to mute you all. And then at any point, if anything's not making sense or not working, please just unmute yourself and let me know. We're going to start with a pretty easy setup. Some of you know this one already. I'm going to encourage you to do a little bit of a smaller version of it, which is just using one blanket. I often call this, I learned this from Jenny Otto, the Cannoli Roll, where we stack 2 blankets up. If that's a really comfortable position for you as we roll this up, feel free to use 2. Like John, Jeff, there's a bunch of us who I think that would just, you just know that's true for. But otherwise, and if you're unfamiliar, just do 1. And you're just taking a blanket that approximates or is one of our yoga blankets, opening it up to this size, rolling it up real firmly on the long end. We're going to set that up on the center of your space. Oh, the other prop, I knew I was forgetting a prop. The other prop is a wall. So I meant to say, so you have a space cleared or something that will work, which you won't necessarily need to see me, but you hearing me, hopefully, would be key. Anyway, the setup here is pretty straight ahead. Lots of ways to use this one, but we are going to use it to support the entire spine, meaning that your pelvis, the sacrum, is on the roll as well as the back of your head. The tendency here is going to be to want to pull the shoulder blades down. Resist that bigger action and see if pressing your feet down and kind of just gently pushing yourself towards your head, just in a one-time little action, kind of gives you the effect you're looking for, which is the shoulder blades just sliding down the back a bit, as opposed to cranking in. Some of us will just know that keeping the feet flat is a little better. A nice one I always remind us of is the dropping the knees in. Naomi, you might want to do that with the sacrum stuff. It creates a little more space in the back of the pelvis. Some of us are going to be just fine to stretch out your legs. Please turn your palms up. Please just take a nice full breath into the space you occupy. As I'm fond of reminding us, the object of yoga is you. As you take that breath in, take a moment and just feel what is happening now. Exhale, bones get heavier, shoulders sink towards the floor, jaw and head relaxes. Just do a few simple belly breaths. Next inhale, connect it down into low belly, but let your belly get nice and full. Feel that fullness isn't only in that obvious lifting and expanding of belly, but feel that fullness continues to expand into your back and into the floor and into the roll. Once again, feel exhale as a letting go. I mentioned to Susan when we were checking in on her shoulder trouble is that we just passed the solstice, and so these are some of the longest days of the year. So just naturally, the Ayurvedics really recognize that we're immersed in this bigger energy, even with all of our remarkable wizardry to pull us out of nature's natural rhythms. And that's a little bit the theme we're going to walk down tonight, is in this kind of gift of the fire, this energy of growth and renewal, this metaphor for change. How do we align with that in a productive and supportive way when, as we know, the fire so ready for, so available for so many different expressions of inflammation, physically and emotionally, energetically. Next inhale, feel the breath just sweeter, a little cooler and quieter now. Kissing the tips of your nostrils, feel the touch up at the third eye, and then almost as if it was a nectar, just pull it down into pelvis, down into pelvic floor, and a little slower, a little more consciously now. Really fill up the pelvis, expand belly. little more specific here. As you exhale, feel that sense of letting go. And the energy of exhale is just going to move up from pelvis now towards heart. I like the feeling of a ah. Let's just stay with that for a few more rounds, please. Try less. Enjoy this gift of life as breath, as it kisses the tips of your nostrils, moves down, feeding a sense of gravity and presence and awareness in the pelvic floor and pelvis. Feel a sense of trust and home. Feel the strength of belly. Feel it's like you're depositing or fortifying those qualities, so they're remaining, as exhale is just the sense of clearing out this energy, moving up towards heart. Feel your heart relax, your tongue relax, your brain relax. As the exhales take you back to heart, allow yourself to have permission to let go of any striving or needing to get it right. Allowing this to be an opportunity to create space, to receive space, to open to this gift of this fire that you're an expression of. It's yours, you don't owe it to anybody, and you can't get it wrong. Yoga is just the tools to enhance the possibilities of the journey that it allows us to take. Let's stay with the breath just a little bit more. You might even find it useful to visualize the home base of this metaphorical fire, which is at Manipura chakra at the navel center at your spine, where it's been burning since you took your first breath, where it's been behind all those moments when you were truly able to excel, when you were a force of nature. It's both the energy of willpower. The light of the fire is insight itself. Last one. Next time you inhale, down in the pelvis. Last one, we're just going to fill out pelvic floor. And as the exhale comes around, just allow that flame, however you're experiencing it, as a feeling or as a vision or some combination of both, just bring it back into heart, or bring it up into heart, I should say. Then we're just going to take a breath just right there into heart, into the flame burning at Anahata, the unstruck sound. Kind of a nice dance tonight is we're going to get a little more into some specifics around shoulders. The key to really get the goods of this fire, this willpower that brought you to this mat, gave you this time, is love, right? Is the qualities of heart, the spaciousness and freedom of our truest X-power. Take a breath into that gift and just take a conscious moment to recognize this choice to give yourself space, to open up to the full spectrum of life, which is opening up to the full spectrum of you. Hands are sliding down to your sides if they're not. And I would encourage you, especially since so many of us are pros at this kind of breath work, just to let this next little movement, which will allow some access and energy to move into the mid-back and rhomboids, which are muscles that connect your shoulder blades to your spine. It's just simply inhale is going to take the arms up. There's no right place. Some of us will just be fine to take them all the way to the floor. Exhale is going to bring you down. Inhale, arms are lifted up. Slow it down. Let the breath lead the movement as opposed to the movement leading the breath. Exhale is bringing you down. Choose to keep your jaw and tongue relaxed, but now the next time you lift up your arms, please add pressing your head straight down into the blanket it's resting on pretty firmly. Let that press go as you exhale. Feel the heaviness in your heels. Check out any residual engagement, unnecessary engagement. Same idea. Inhale, arms up. Head's going to press a little bit more. Gonna let that head press as the hands come down. Inhale the arms back up, press the head. Let's keep the head pressing just to where it's comfortable, but this time, as you exhale, instead of bringing the arms back down, you're gonna bend the elbows out to the sides. Some of us, the elbows close to the floor, but probably obviously the more you lift up the elbows, sort of the less intensity. Most of us will be getting in the lats here. All right, lost you on the breath there. We're just exhaling the elbows down to the sides to where they want to stop, and you're inhaling the arms back up overhead as close to the floor that they're happy with. Don't let the form get willpower no longer on your side. Exhale the elbows down, inhale the arms up. Just one more time. Let's inhale the arms, elbows back together in the midline, stretch up and over. This time, please hook your thumbs and just reach a little more enthusiastically, unless you know your back's no good with it. Press your feet down, bump the tail under, and then stretch out through your legs. Go ahead and stretch them straight if you're good with it. Stretch from your tailbone to your heels, reach from fingernails, tailbone to heels. Take a big breath, please, right in the space between your ribs and pelvis. Decompressing. Exhale, go ahead and bring the arms down, bring your feet back flat. We're just a little bit elevated. Just to remind you though, you're gonna roll to the side. Some of us will have a little more going on in back here. And if that's just in terms of the energy that you're feeling right now, if that's the case, just give yourself a moment and take a breath right into the upper back. And then you're gonna use your arms to press yourself up. We're just going to maneuver around to a seat. That roll might work perfect. We just want to sit tall in any Sukhasana or cross-legged seat. Be a little liberal here on the propping. Don't let the seat be a distraction. You could even pop up on a block. From here, take your arms out to the sides. Turn your palms up. Inhale, stretch up. Bend your elbows, grab them. Press your elbows out into your hands. From there, stretch up tall. Would it make sense to pull up through your elbows and draw your shoulder blades down the back, all the while broadening out? Big, smooth, bright breath. We could add a little bonus support by adding some magnetic attraction between your knees. Inhale, stretch up. We're gonna exhale the arms all the way out to the sides and just do a quick clasp behind the back. Interlace the fingers, bend the elbows just as much as you need so your thumbs are on your sacrum. You're gonna press your thumbs into your sacrum and pull your elbows together. Your head's gonna wanna come forward. Your ribs are gonna wanna pop out the best you can. Kind of, it's a little bit of the action like you're trying to give yourself a double chin. Draw your chin, palate up and back. Pull your ribs in as much as is practical here. As if I haven't already asked you too much, press your thumbs into your hands, pull your elbows together, but now pull your hands isometrically apart. Just take a big, bright breath. Create some tension. Exhale, release. Inhale up. I meant to remember the cross. We're gonna switch the cross. It's all up to you people. Hold your elbows, pull yourself taller, broaden out. Same funny invitation, pull the shoulder blades down as you reach up. One more smooth breath here. Exhale, stretch it up. This is what I never do, but it's totally good. The physical therapists love this one for getting into the fascia and the neck. What you're gonna do, all you're gonna do is reach up with your right hand, that head over heart, head over spine. So make sure you're not too far forward. Slide your head back comfortably. I think you're kind of sliding back into a headrest. You're gonna reach up with your right hand. You're gonna take it over to the side just gently. And then what you might wanna do, I should have said, especially if you're propped up high, you might wanna block or something to be on. But then what you can do is extend into your left arm, but I should give you less to do and just encourage you to breathe into the right side of your neck, relax your jaw. Keep doing it, yogis. There's kind of, you'll see different studies. There's kind of a 30 to 60 second, 90 second kind of magic spot here. 30 seconds does seem a little longer than you might think here though. Let's let it go. Inhale, stretch up. We're just gonna do the same thing to the second side. Take a little second to tune into the relationship of head and heart. Gonna take the left arm up, think ear over. So we're just kind of finding that natural range of motion, and the hand is just helping. You might want to stretch down into those opposite fingers. See if it would be useful to add a little tone, a little isometric hug between your knees. And then what we could do, I know I've been so relentless on it since Zoom, is fall right back into that breath, inhaling down into pelvic floor real consciously, using that to move consciousness into pelvis, interior of sacrum, into belly, and then the sense of letting go as exhale brings awareness back up into heart. Let's stretch up and out. Actually, the other version of this one, so that's nice, right? Gets us a little bit into those levators that those SCMs, those bigger muscles in front that I'm always talking about. Gets us definitely into the levator, the muscle that we often call our traps. It's underneath the traps is the one we're actually feeling. But really where I like this, the one more version of this that we'll do tonight is, and this is just nice ones to do while computing, is for a set of muscles called the scalenes in the back of the neck. So let's go back to the first side. And it's basically the same idea. We're gonna take ourselves over, but we're gonna look down. That's a good, like you're looking into your own pocket would be a good way to say it, I think. So you're gonna look into your own pocket, and you're just gonna create a little bit of weight with that same quality. You can still do that opposite hand. Shouldn't be any, you guys stay there, assuming it's working, it shouldn't be any like discomfort in the vertebra. Should be a pretty specific kind of fascia, kind of with a superficial stretch, and then you might also be feeling a deeper attachment in there. Don't get too lost on the feeling front, because we're always just gonna feel it where we need it. Rather than, once again, we always want to be sensitive of what's happening with the deeper structure, in this case, the cervical vertebra. You guys, let's just go ahead and come on out of that. Gonna take the head over. You're gonna look down into your pocket. I know I'm taking you in different. Is the same idea though. Once you're there, you're just gonna, the hand is not forcing, it's just encouraging, should be a little bit obvious. See how the dance of inhale and exhale are doing. That really useful kind of quality of the breath as kind of feedback of how we're doing with the fire is, anytime inhale is more dominant, then we know we're kind of getting a little bit pulled into that momentum of the fire. That's good, yogis. Let's reach it out. Come on back. Interlace your fingers. Take the hands behind your head. You're gonna press your head back into your hands, and it's subtle, but if you create a little pocket there, so you're not having the whole hands just flat on the head, there's a little space, so I'm actually just pressing into the two heels of my hands. Find that, take your elbows forward, take your armpits up and back, right? So you get a little bit of that drawing in action, you get a little narrower. Press back into your skull, squeeze however you're sitting, squeeze your knees together isometrically, roll your pubic bone down and inhale, curl into your upper back. Shouldn't be any pain here, but a good amount of engagement in the muscles in the back of the neck. So you're really pressing your head back into your hands, and now your heart is lifting up, your pubic bone is rolling down, your armpits are still hollow. Take a breath into your upper back. Exhale, release. Bigger thing, and with shoulder stuff, it's always foundation. That's why we often don't go quite as far and kind of this specific into an area of the body, because no part of us operates independently. So fundamental about how your shoulders are operating is how much your legs are underneath your spine. So we will say good evening to our core now with hopefully a little happier open shoulders. Just need some space. We're doing our Maha Psoas stretch. You just need a little bit of space around you. And no props other than lots of body parts. Feet flat, wiggle yourself a little bit wider than your hips. Lift and spread your toes. Best of your ability, just be up on your sits bones. So naturally here, we're gonna wanna sit on tailbone. Resist that. Keep your toes real active, please, and see how your low back, hips, and bum are feeling tonight. As you just start taking knees side to side. Don't force, but since we have not gotten into legs too much tonight, do put a little extra energy on sort of the more challenging physiological piece of this next stretch, just practically, is it's that inside knee coming down. So just let body know we're heading in that direction. For some anatomical reasons, we're going to drop our knees over to the left first. And this one's got a lot of specific bits. Don't hesitate to chime in if you're less familiar. Foot and knee are pressing together. That's going to be a consistent engagement. Press them together. You're leaning into your left thigh. Your right bum is up. You're going to walk your hands around behind me or behind you and just lift up really tall. I'm going to move so you can see what's going on back here, which is kind of a classic Iyengar twist, is from that base that you're actively working on and keeping strong. You're gonna up on your fingertips if available, you're just gonna get taller. Classic Iyengar twist, meaning that we're inhaling tall. Broaden out your elbows. Feel your shoulder blades come onto the back like loving hands. Skull slides back. Take that back, not to the point of discomfort, but to where it feels maybe a little more than feels right. And then from this connection, now take advantage of this connection of head and heart. Exhale, turn your heart to the left. Draw your tailbone down a bit. Let that be a reminder to press your knee into your foot. More tone available. More support you might find. Not that that's the goal, but there might just be the response that there's a little more twist available. Big bright breath. You guys get out of this at any point. The regulars know where I'm heading. I'm gonna walk myself out into the left here a bit. And if it's available, if it's practical, I'm gonna ask you if you can come right down to forearms or forearms on a block. But if it works to pause here, I really like this pause, is grip your left finger pads with these wide elbows kind of floating your heart above the floor. Lift your left shoulder, left elbow. Feel how that gives you even a greater opportunity to twist your heart and head to the left. From there, pull your heart longer. You're gonna come down to your forearms. Remember, we're never serving forms. So other props or other help, unmute if you're having troubles, is here. We're gonna inhale longer. Foot and knee are still pressing together. It's just like this steadfast hug we're choosing to give ourselves. And then I'm gonna invite you to shrug your shoulders. And this is where it's gonna get a little counterintuitive. As you exhale, press into the elbows, pull your ribs in. Bow out the area of the lower back ribs. Fill the area of the lower back ribs, which is kind of a humble gesture. And as you create that humble gesture, breathe right around the circumference of your ribs. Relax your jaw, relax your brain. Both opening up so as, did I just hit the wrong camera button? Joe Miller. Cool, you guys. Yep, we're still here. And remember, you're not stuck if you need to shift at any point. But Colin, this can be a really nice one for just decompressing, especially post doing the weights. We're just really getting a particularly challenging core muscle. And this with a little downward regulation of the nervous system can really change a bigger relationship or experience of body. Nice, you guys. Let's from here, if you're still with me, look up in front of your hands, pull your crown a little bit longer. Yeah, and just take a breath into the length between the top of your head and your tailbone. From there, you're gonna walk yourself out. Yeah, using your hands in this one can be helpful. So the core stays a little softer. I realized I could see everybody but me. Let's keep it moving, yogis. I know, I may have overplanned my class. Shocking, I know. From here, foot and knees, we're just going to the other side. We're dropping knees over to the right. Take a quick moment and double check that not only you have this connection, but there's a little bit of statedness, a little bit of willpower, a little bit of well-expressed fire in there. And you can even, it's subtle here, but you can probably tell when you add that squeeze, how there's actually some tone all the way up into the base of the spine, which we're actually gonna ask quite a bit of. From here, walk yourself around. Remember, stage one mind is gonna wanna jump to that end of that sophistication you just got to, but just be right here in the part one, which is all about getting taller and longer and more grounded. Lean into your right thigh, up on your fingertips, stretch up tall. Palate slides back. Soften your eyes, broaden out your elbows. Use that connection to shoulder blades. Maybe even try breathing into your right lung and using your left shoulder blade to find a little more twist here. Steadfast with foot and knee. Feel yourself creating this spiral of energy, and it's going kind of from gross to subtle, right? From the power in your legs all the way up to your spine, all the way up to your head, and even as an expression of your vision. Breathe into this whole flow. Part two, where we're gonna have a little option to float in kind of a wide arm chaturanga. But the bigger idea here is it's like you're creating yourself as a tiny segment of a really big spiral. So you're walking yourself away first and then just a wee bit to the right. Drop down as much as practical. If this little bus stop is useful for you, grip your right finger pads, lift up your right shoulder, right elbow, right armpit, turn your heart to the right, pull yourself longer. From there, place your elbows down, and we'll pause and we'll just lengthen through, and then just let your head go. Relax your jaw, your striving and your personality, and press your elbows down. Use that action almost like you're doing a crunch. And then once you get the form of the crunch, once you get kind of this humble gesture of actually looking into your heart, see, with the exception of your foot and knee, if you can soften even a little bit more. Yeah, let go of any unnecessary doing and jaw or tongue or other spots. And in fact, if you're clear on that engagement of foot and knee, you could inhale right down into pelvic floor. Feel exhales and expanding up into heart and heart from the back here. 80% of your lung space is in your back. One of our best accesses to healthy rhomboids, these most recently evolved muscles that connect the spine to the shoulder blades allow us to retract and lift up a little bit. We know they're the most recently evolved muscles because they don't share them with the higher primates. They have really poor shoulder integration. Don't make fun, they don't have rhomboids. From here, look up, inhale, extend through your crown. Inhale, wring it all out, walk yourself back up and around. All right, we're taking a detour to the wall. Everybody grabbed a tennis ball but me. And this is just a nice one. Anytime we hear rhomboids, and we've done, when I've done different fascia type classes in our soon to be, again, studio days, we do some different things rolling around. And this is just kind of a nice one that we'll just throw in here real quick, is just for getting into rhomboids. And it's the same idea. Rhomboids, once again, these muscles between your shoulder blade and your spine. And so the idea here is we're just gonna, although you might need an assistant, is we're gonna put this, take your feet a little bit away from the wall. And we could, of course, spend a lot of time here as we get doing this, because it's just nice. And particularly useful for rhomboids. I like this for a lot of different muscles, but these muscles in particular, which are kind of going in this bipolar thing from being all crunched up in texting to kind of a big back bend when we're walking around, most of us in life. So here, it's not rocket science on one level. If you're in the space between your shoulder blade and spine, you can just feel that you can just work the tennis ball there a bit. And then I also like this one a little bit, other than the gravity issue of easy to lose the tennis ball, and can be probably trickier for a few of us to get it in there, is we just have a lot more control, right, in terms of the level of intensity. We don't have quite as much when we're doing this on the floor. Like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time in here. You can just kind of wanted to put this in our toolkit. Other ways, and you can just feel, you could take your arms up. The one I really would like here would be like a hug, right? Would be most for the rhomboids, or the side you're working on. And this is only if you need to turn it up, or just feel like there's more access available. But if you take that side you're working on, the arm across, of course, that is just opening up the space. It's just practical. All right, now I'm just doing this for myself. From here, he lost his tennis ball. Let's just switch it up, yogis, and we're gonna do a few more things at the wall. So let's just go to that other side to keep ourselves even. Yeah, and if you go kind of midway, then you can work your legs to kind of move this around. If you found that it was obvious, or you're not feeling a ton here, remember, don't do it now because we're going to do something else here in a second, is the floor could be a better option for you. And then these opening up the rhomboid stuff, like the arm across the body, or you could even go full Garuda if you wanted, would just give you more access. And I'm kind of zooming this in on the rhomboids, but you can feel how you can take this all the way up to the muscle I mentioned earlier, the levator scapula. It's a muscle that attaches your scapula, and it just like it sounds, it elevates your scapula. Worry about even maybe one or two more breaths. I'm feeling embarrassed about my tennis ball skills. Is my favorite prop, just FYI, is to take, very similar, you take two tennis balls and put them in a sock together, and then tie them up so they're pushed together. And although you can buy lots of fancy stuff to lay on your occiput, it's a really nice one. You just you lie it on your back, you put those two tennis balls there, and not only does it, you can work them in lots of places and do many things with it, but on that particular location, right at the base of the skull, it's this really sweet effect where the weight of your head creates a little traction, just like a massage therapist might. So anyway, thank you, Miss Jane. From here, yogis, we're gonna, and I'm hoping this will not work. I know there's a lot of crossover and we take a generally more therapeutic approach. Rarely do I can't think of any time, we do actually straight ahead forward bends, because it can be a little bit of a trickier action for many of us. That I know the majority of us are super fine. I'm just trying to cover the bases. So when I was coming up with some of the traction stuff that I wanted to get in here, really more for neck, Margaret, interestingly, because all of these things work together. What I came up with was a technique where you can just be against the wall, and if you take yourself away from the wall a little bit and just let your butt sink back into it, and then from there, see if this works. We still want to give our low back some support. A little bit of a hug into the midline could be useful. So squeeze and activate your inner thighs as you bend forward. And from here, keep that little squeeze. Hold your elbows. Relax your jaw. Relax your head. Let your breath be smooth and even. Next exhale, and this is kind of an interesting dance with willpower because we're both using willpower to keep this little bit of hugging in and tone through the legs. You can spread your toes a bit, and at the same time, kind of zoom in, like keep it consistently, but it's kind of be more attuned to it on exhale, an inhale rather, and then exhale, put a little more emphasis on upper body, just like ragdoll, gravity decompressing the spine. Let's just do a switch quick switch with our cross. All right, and then similar to that little fascia, physical therapy fascia trick we did before, kind of the same idea here. Your head is just dangling, which I'm doing a poor demo of with my squawking. And what you're gonna do is take your hands to the back of your head, and you're not really pulling so much, maybe a little bit, but it's really kind of more this idea of weight. Oh, then of course, the other thing I was covering the bases with that, there's some other benefits to having your butt against the wall. You can kind of feel there's a little more access and energy into hamstrings. But a lot of us, I should have said, just be in Uttanasana, right? Just have your butt away from the wall and you'll actually probably feel more in your neck. Cool, yogis, let that go. Some of us, the folks who are butts are against the wall, which is great, this is probably already available just because you've shortened your distance. The folks who are more in Uttanasana might want to bend their knees a little bit, but a little more active one before we get out from being upside down, which of course you can take a break from at any point, but kind of a classic, what is it, Ashtanga little form here, which is to hold your big toes and you're just gonna pull on them. And the idea here is you're now pulling your shoulder blades towards your ears. Your head is just heavy. You're still hugging it a bit. Now, if they're not, bend your knees a little bit more. Keep the pull. And now with the pull, and be real gentle here. We don't want to get into a struggle between low back and hamstrings. They're really strong muscles. Jaws relaxed. Check out your tongue. Check out the space between your eyes. And then keeping the pull, it might be kind of interesting, take you a little bit deeper, is to bring your legs a little straighter, either version you are, if the butt's against the wall or not, just press, just use, you can kind of feel that dance, right? Good idea, Sujata. That was it, yogis. Let your toes go. For low back, you might want to slide your butt away from the wall, bend your knees, and then straighten at your knees and your waist at the same time. I think we're going to skip the strap and instead do what I sometimes call waiter's pose, because the bigger piece with shoulders is always, just on kind of the simplest relationship, is always pecs and lats. And we've done some good lat stuff, but now we'll go pecs. Do I have a good shot? I call it waiter's pose because you're going to stand away from the wall about half the length of your arm. You're going to hold your, I'm doing my right side here, and like a waiter holding a tray, if it's a fancy waiter, fancy restaurant, is the palm is turned up, and that external rotation is already going to be getting us in there a little bit for some of us. Turn towards the wall a bit and pull your arm, not jam it, but pull your arm into the socket. The muscles that do that are your rhomboids. From there, everything's going to want to go cattywampus. Pelvis is flying forward, ribs are popping out. Watch out for your roommates. So take your thighs back, pull your ribs in, slide your skull back, find Tadasana. Are your ankles, hips, shoulders, and ears, best you can discern, lined up? From here, most of us know where I'm heading. We're just going to turn. We're going to turn our bellies towards the center of the room. And as you do that, I want you to, oh, what's my lame comedy riff I do here? Oh, the waiter, pissed off, so wants to throw the tray. So isometrically pull the tray forward, pull your hand forward so everything wakes up, but the waiter realizes he needs the job. So you've engaged too much. You've engaged these muscles, so you're pulling the hand forward, but you're not letting it move. That was what I should have said. Turn your feet a little bit to the left, or turn towards the center of the room maybe, and you're just turning more. Notice the ribs want to pop. If your hand gets numb at any time, it's just time to come on out, which we're going to do in just 1 second. Big, bright breath. Exhale, even if you're happy here, I would just recommend rotator cuff. We want to be careful. We're deeper than you might think. Turn towards the wall to come out of this. So we're just taking the stress out. Shake it out a little bit. Like bicep is to tricep, like where they're called synergists, or some schools called antagonists. It's similar with pecs and rhomboids. And also lats to a certain degree. It's complicated. It's a symphony of relationship up in our remarkable shoulder girdles. All right, yogis, of course, we're heading to the other side. You're holding this imaginary tray. The little finger side of your hand is against the wall. I hope I made it clear on the first side. In this one, there's other versions where we do the elbow against the wall, but this one, we're actually keeping the elbow away from the wall. And why I really like that, Margaret, is because what that gives us is access to biceps and a muscle called radial brachialis that is really hard to stretch. And that one is super related to wrists and elbow stuff. Thighs back, ribs back. Take a breath into the back of your skull. Take a breath into your sacrum. Soften the ribs in. From there, don't move your feet yet, just turn first. For a lot of us, that's going to be plenty. Don't give up. The hand's going to want to roll in. There's going to be all sorts of little valves for more freedom. So we just use the form, not to get it right or to jam ourselves into some concept, but just to be clear and maybe even a little dispassionate with the relationships. It can be helpful. These relationships, we're so close, right? You could turn the feet a couple degrees. The little bit goes a long way, though. It's really about the rotation at the trunk. So you guys are in charge. Let your breath lead the way. There might be one more turn. It might have been time to come out. I'm going to give us just another breath here, because I really told the long waiter story on the other side. I know you guys have been wanting to hear it for a long time. Exhale, turn yourself back in. Give yourself a break. Oh, there's another one I was going to do here. There's a... we're going to go to the wall. You're going to take your elbows against the wall, and you're just going to, it's just kind of a, oh, it's a little riff on the child's pose, really, is, which we're going to get to in just a second, but let's just do it here. There's a little bit different forces. Hands against the wall, a little bit above you. You're going to drop your elbows into the wall, and then from there, stick your butt out, squeeze your elbows in your hands isometrically together. Head might be against the wall, might not. You're going to melt your heart. You're going to soften the space between your shoulder blades. Am I forgetting any hypermobile friends? I don't think so tonight. And then you can kind of feel that there might be a little more access here, taking pubic bone back, kind of going a little bit more back bend. Inhale, come on back up. You can just walk yourself towards the wall. Let's take ourselves down towards table position. Where you might want to put some padding down for your knees. I'm Joe, so we got to do a few rounds of Chakravirkrasana, but we're going to keep kind of going. A little allopathic mindset tonight and get right back into the rhomboids a bit. So once you're here in all fours, I'd encourage you to come back to that either idea, visualization, feeling of this seat of willpower at Manipura. And as you exhale, press the floor away from you, scoop the tail under, And I've been giving you guys this funny invitation, this idea of emptying out the exhale initially from behind the pelvis as the tailbone scoops down, and then you're just hollowing out belly, and you're really drawing navel in towards the spine as much as is possible with the intention of deepening that action. Inhale is just the opposite, super chill. Just let your belly get filled, let your tail lift, let your chin lift. Let's do it one more time up here. All of us, let's press a little more energy through the knuckles of the palms. That will support wrists. Scoop your tail, empty out. Feel on this big press. We're actually right back up into the rhomboids. One more time, just feel the gift of breath. Let her fill you. Next exhale, you might want to take this, the same idea, all the same stuff, but now you might also want to drop back towards a child's pose as you empty out. If that's where you're heading, pull the heels of your hands back a little bit. Inhale is going to slide you back up. Let's just give ourselves a few rounds tonight. See that flame at Manipura becoming a little bit more of a blaze. All those different heart and soul desires, feel them being fortified with each inhale. And let the exhale be an opportunity just to clear out those self-limiting thoughts, all of that stuff that just gets in the way, that stuff that ends up putting a little film on our windshield out into the world. Really find the depth of exhale. Cool. And then next time you're up in all fours, we're just going to pause. Kind of a funny one here. I remember the lovely Surzy Hurley, my Moogie, doing this one years ago. She was called pumping the rhomboids, but it's totally a healthy action, which is really press down. We can just give this more bang for the buck. City metaphor, city expression. Press down into the knuckles of the palms, fingers spread. So there's this unmistakable tone in the forearms. Remember, you could also, if being on the wrist, rolling up something, elevating the heels of the hands can be useful as well. Or you could just do serious ridge tops and strengthen those guys. The idea here, though, we'll just do a little bit, is you're going to exhale. It's a little bit of the action we were just doing, but it's kind of like we're isolating it in the upper back. So the idea here is you're pressing, rounding out the back. Go ahead and let your head curl a little bit, and that will exaggerate the action. And then you're going to look up, and you're going to melt your heart. Yeah, and so it's kind of just finding this fullest range of motion as you look up and melt your heart. And as you press the floor, the earth away from you, and you round out your heart. I couldn't decide how to coach the breath in this one, so I'm just going to say keep your breath smooth and even. I was texting with Colin today and inquired about if he was still weightlifting, and he mentioned that's not really where the pain was showing up for him. He thought it maybe was related to like a post effect. But when he was weightlifting, like the fresh blood that moved into this area felt really good and relieving. And that's absolutely the case. And we've been doing that all night, but this would be a really simple way to send some blood into the rhomboids where we can just get a little jammed up. Basically what happens, because they're going back and forth into these two extreme postures, is they end up spasming. Now, you guys, next time your heart is melted, you're gonna look up. Oh, in fact, since we had double wrist tonight, and I'm doing horrible with the time, let's drop down. Let's all do some version of dolphin pose tonight. So let's drop down. Remember, you could either interlace your fingers, which is a little bit more stabilizing. If you're more familiar and shoulders aren't too ginned up, come down to your forearms and have them parallel, and keep working all those good actions in your hands and wrists. Unmistakable tone. I always want to apologize in advance for this pose. It's so healthy though. Look up, soften your heart. You're curling your toes. Conveniently, someone has just placed a block between your heels and your knees, and you're squeezing into these imaginary blocks. Remember, you don't necessarily have to lift off. You can start to fall back towards an extended child's pose, and I promise you will find something. Others of us, of course, are just going to press right up, basically down dog on your forearms, but you can feel that onus and sort of that support we can get in dog for the arms by really hugging in with slightly bent knees or even deeply bent knees. Please press your heels back, press your thighs back. Awesome, you guys. I think that's John, looking good, man. Big, bright breath. Super good. And then I'm going to suggest the majority of us, remember, we're honoring the fire, walking this edge. The majority of us, I'm going to suggest, is coming down into child's pose from here. A few of us might want to, you're authorized, of course, to turn it into Chaturanga B, to slide it into the plank version of the same pose. Do the one that feels right for you. I'm just going to give us a breath here. Cool. And then planks, if you haven't, come on down and fall back. We're going to pull ourselves back up to all fours. And we're going to do, this is another one. Boy, Colin, your text got me doing all kinds of stuff I don't normally do. But just another, it's a good one, is another one just for sort of classic access to the, really good access to the rhomboids. The tricky one with this, which will probably be obvious, is the weight on the shoulders. Let me just show you where this is going. And for some of us, this can be a really helpful one. We're gonna just slide a hand, threading the needle. We used to call it Backward Kripalu. Threading the needle, we used to slide the arm underneath. And the idea here is, and you're using your right arm to moderate this if you're not sure if this works, is to come all the way down onto your shoulder. And yep, and you got the idea here as we're working, we can just use that as an opening. If you're really comfortable, you can stretch your top arm straight. And the other place, I should have said, kind of butt more back, a little back from table position will give us, some of us, more access here. Wide range of bodies in the crew. Bring your right hand back, press yourself up. Really, it's a yoga class, so we should do it much more dancey. Take it way up, exhale, slide it through, lowering yourself down. The shoulder's gonna be the same, so even though it might have worked on the first side, just if you're less familiar, it's gonna be a little quirky one, right? It can be really nice. And then you just gotta be a little bit conscious of how the weight's working. We're just going to give ourselves just a couple breaths there. It's not huge, but if you stretch that top arm out and if you can kind of finagle your butt falling back as the other sort of play in terms of access for most of us. Good work, you guys. Breathe in right and where sensation is revealing itself. Use your hands to press yourself back up. Let's give ourselves either a dog, or if dog is not practical for you tonight, you'll do the actions of, you'll go into polar bear pose and do the same arm actions. I'm just gonna lead dog for practical reasons. Look up, soften your heart. Remember, fingers are spread a lot, thumbs not so much. You're really pressing down into the knuckles of your palms. Not so much the collapse that I was encouraging before, especially the folks with a lot of freedom, but do soften the space between your shoulder blades. Curl your toes under, press yourself back into dog. Really press down into your index finger knuckles. Bend your knees a little bit more than feels right. So we're gonna take the hamstrings out of it so you can really stick your butt out with reckless abandon and feel that extension. Breathe into, activate the extension from the tips of your fingers, all tips of your pinkies, all the way up into your groins. Lift your sits bones more. Nice, you guys. Go ahead and stay with the shoulders. Keep that same action. And just to taste, as much as is practical now, index finger knuckles have to stay pressed down for this. If you lose that, it's fine. It's just time to come down. But if you're good for a few more breaths, you're now going to bend your elbows out to the sides away from each other. Even a little bit of that action is really going to change the position of your shoulder blades. Yep. And you're from there, just do it to where you still feel stable and breath is still good. And then you're going to keep that squeeze. You're going to squeeze the bottom tips of your shoulder blades together. Bring your arms straight again. You're going to either exhale down into child's pose or inhale forward into plank. Child's pose, folks, let your heads just be heavy. Relax your jaw and your tongue. Plank pose, folks, breathe into your whole length. Feel where these muscles often get jammed up is the shoulder girdle getting pulled down onto, we lose space. Think of every four-legged critter on the planet. Every step they take, they get longer. It's the opposite for us. Inhale, lengthen your shoulders towards the front of your room, towards your screen, or wherever your head is pointing. Exhale, bend your knees, plank pokes, and just join the rest of our friends in child's pose. There's a little segue in child's pose here, which is just like bending your elbows and bringing like into a prayer position and bringing your hands towards your back. Some of us might not find anything there, but if you did that with your elbows a little bit elevated, you will. Let that go. Pull yourself back up. The one more that we have to get into a little bit. We've worked all around them, but what always plays in with the rhomboids and neck and shoulder stuff is this SCM. So a lot of you know, I think I did it on Monday. And it's a sequence, it's a little more complicated sequence, but it's one some of us will recognize. If it's comfortable, since we didn't do a ton of lower body stuff tonight, I would recommend, unless it's a distraction, some version of Vajrasana for this next one, which just is a kneeling pose. So if you're cool sitting on your heels, you might need to put a little roll between your ankles and the floor. You could do that, but you saw what I just did. I just put a block right between my feet. It's just a nice, particularly, you could also, you could sit up just very tall, just prop yourself liberally if you're not doing the Vajrasana. And you could also just stand up if that works better. We just want a nice tall spine for this one. Cool. Don't let your base be a distraction though. And don't let your yoga teacher give you too many options. It seems to be my tendency in Zoomlandia here. Is from here, yogis, turn my back to you. This one can get a little maddening. Is just in terms of the steps. The thing to keep in mind, each one of these little steps is a great pose into itself, and each one builds on the previous. So you can there's no changes between them. We're just kind of stacking up these three different actions. Interlace your fingers, just like we did before. We're super warmed up for this tonight. Is elbows are bent, thumbs coming back to sacrum, the base, flat bone at the base of your spine. From there, you're going to shrug the shoulders. You're going to make more space between your hips and your pits. You're going to squeeze your elbows together. You're going to pull your hands apart. Relax your jaw and your brain. Let your ears open as your inhale. Slide your palate up and back. Ribs draw back a little bit. Yeah, we're just holding this one for a moment. Don't let go, but just relax. Just take a breath with everything soft. And now, bring the heels of your hands together. Slide your hands over to the left. As you do that, your right shoulder is going to want to drop in. You're going to press your hands into your back. You're also not going to take them too far. You're just going to take them till they hit some resistance. And that's kind of like the dynamic relationship. You're going to find the sweet spot where you can have your right shoulder rolled back and open. your collarbone more smooth to the body on this side, even though you got the hands curling around. Pressing that so it's dynamic. I'm pressing my hands, I'm rolling my right shoulder open. Slide your skull back. As you exhale, drop your head towards the side, your left side, the side your hands are on. Think two-dimensional here. Naturally, head's gonna wanna kind of roll and ego is gonna wanna find, mind is gonna wanna find sort of where the sensation is, but just think two-dimensional. So ear, we kind of played with this a bunch tonight in those earlier stretches, right? So we're just taking the ear right over. And first you just let it go, and then maybe try pressing that, your right elbow a little further away. Going to get much greater benefits here if we can find that sweet spot where we're in a place where your exhale is really smooth and clear. There's a little bit, not that you're not still doing some, but there's a little bit of that feeling of ah. Open your jaw, and then don't change a thing, just let your head fall back. So from right where you are now, open your jaw and just let your head fall back. So I'm hoping you're feeling a real specific stretch in the right side of throat. Exactly. It's subtle, but bringing your teeth back together will give us a little more space here. Cool, it was wacky to get into, but easy to get out. Just let it go, let your head come back. Just pause with soft eyes. Of course, we're doing all of that on the other side. Let's breathe into the right, breathe into the throat. This could be a nice place. I've been so obsessed with that Vishoka breath. Is that Tibetan Buddhist breath I also like, which is the inhale into the base of skull. Try it now. Feel it as an ascension. Experience your exhale is just pushing out your back body. Take a moment to be the receiver. And I'm just gonna clasp the hands. I'm just gonna go right over to part one, which is the hands sliding over. We're pressing in and we're rolling the left shoulder open. Which I imagine some of us probably don't feel much here at all, and other folks will tell you that right now they're feeling the long head of their biceps, this groove muscle, right in here in a very specific way. And precisely as we press, if you're not feeling it, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, it just means the long head of your biceps is happy, is press the hand into, so we're just rolling it out. Work on that external rotation. You'll probably find something in there. I am. From here, check out if your head is crept forward. It wants to, especially if your neck is as long as mine. Always a good question in life. Where's your head at? Exhale, ear, part two. We're dropping the ear over towards the shoulder. Go kind of a little more passive there. Kind of let gravity see what body's willing to do. And then wait for a nice long smooth exhale. And then you might want to press the elbow and maybe add a little engagement. So we're just enjoying this line, breathing into sensation, being as much the receiver as the doer. Open your jaw. Don't change a thing. Shouldn't be any pain here. If there's any vertebral pain, you're just going to move on out of here. Let your head just fall back. And we're just going to give ourselves a little bit there. Go back to that breath we've been working on so much. Inhaling into pelvis, exhale into heart. Thanks, guys, and we'll just let this next exhale be your cue to come out of here. Take your time. Let's just pause. I'm assuming you're in a comfortable seat. Take advantage of this seat. I always like to point out Vajrasana, the most naturally supported seat for the spine. Spine just wants to go. That's why those kneeling chairs are so good. Good work, everybody. Hopefully feel a little lighter and more open in heart. Let's move down to the floor, and I'm not going to do, well, we are going to do a little, and I need to get us to it here. We are going to do a little extended meditation breath kind of combo shavasana thing tonight. I think I'm just going to let it be up to us in terms of the setup. So if that roll was real comfortable for you, it would be fine. My only concern there is the work we started with. That might be a little more stimulating. You guys know my default these days is that, or a lot of us know, the regulars know, that default is that propped up shoulders, kind of the opposite of the action we've been working tonight. But that could be a nice place to go, as well with a whole bunch of nothing. My only other caveat, because I do need to shift into that, is my only caveat before there is I would just recommend some version of Apanasana. So poor sequencing on that. Yeah, so squeeze your knees in. And then here we could just rock and roll a little bit. Give yourself a few breaths here in Apanasana, just knees to chest, any variations you like. Or take a moment just to tend to anything that needs a moment to tend to, as well as if you're going to give yourself a setup. And also, like I said, this practice, which is more traditionally done as a meditation, can really be, there's no, any form you want. Karen K, you feel free to take those legs up the wall, or just sit too, would be the other option. Groovy Yogi, so next 30 seconds or so, let's be settling in to where we're gonna settle. I got this from Rod Stryker, but I assume it's from the Sri Vidya tradition. The folks who have settled, please just drop right back into that breath that I hope you find useful in those more frustrating moments of life. This smooth little inhale, kissing your nostrils, touching the third eye, and like a liquid just filling up pelvic floor consciously, comfortably, expanding into belly. And then the sense of exhale as an energy moving up from pelvis, like an a letting go, that moment when the headache releases. Feel energy in your heart and shoulders. Feel the fruits of the love that you've chosen to give yourself tonight. And now what you'll do is, continuing the same practice, I'll just ask you to consciously slow down your exhale. So not that you're exhaling more, you're just going to take more time with it. And as you take more time with your exhale, you'll notice that it takes your awareness up higher into you, past your heart and into your throat, perhaps even beyond. And real gentle here, As you kind of allow this shift to happen, eventually, it might have already happened, eventually one of those exhales is going to take you right up to the eyebrow center. No rush. But as that happens, experience it as if that breath, that exhale, just deposited your awareness at Ajna Chakra, at the eyebrow center at the brain. And you're just simply going to hold that part of you that's hearing my voice right at the eyebrow center at the brain. And now the breath is just moving of her own accord. And the invitation here is feel not only awareness at this point, but feel breath. Feel breath and awareness consolidated at the eyebrow center at the brain. Feel breath and attention effortlessly at your third eye. Now, when your body breathes, your awareness is going to move from the point between your eyebrows to the point in the midbrain. Exhale is going to take you back to the eyebrow center. So inhale is taking you into the midbrain, called the Guru Chakra. Exhale, just taking awareness back to third eye. Simply observe and enjoy this movement from one point to the other. So the whole earth is supporting you. The weight of your heels and your pelvis. Stay with it, but be effortless. The idea is you're just allowing yourself to settle into this rhythm. Inhaling into midbrain, exhale, moving awareness back to eyebrow center. As the practice becomes more effortless, feel a growing sense of calm. Gradually, you'll find you can simply rest as this movement continues. Feel yourself being absorbed into the third eye. Watch, feel, open. Mind, body, in a rhythm of deep peace and effortlessness. Feel the movement of awareness and breath, becoming a kind of pulse. Try less. As the pulse seems to move beyond breath, a sense of bliss unfolding, your whole being flooded with contentment and joy. Simply awareness and effortlessness. Open to it. Don't try. Become conscious of the experience of peace. Feel that you are the source of peace. Remember the flame at Manipura, almond shaped and maybe 3 inches tall. Draw the flame from your navel through the central channel of the spine. Let it rest at your heart, balancing the sharper qualities of this gift of fire and willpower, and imbuing heart with the qualities of fire, strength, and focus. Take a conscious breath into this remarkable and improbable body of yours. Feel gratitude for it, even in the inevitable challenges that came with the deal. Take a breath right in the spine. Stretch out through fingertips. Maybe slide your thumbs across your fingertips. Give your nose a wiggle. And I will only take it as a compliment if you turn me off right now or ignore me as I close down class. But if you want to say goodbye, you could draw your knees up or just complete your practice, of course. Draw your knees up in a way that's useful and gentle and roll to a side. Just be a little vulnerable. Strong arms bring you back up as you're ready. Thought I unmuted us all. Anyway, thanks you guys. Thanks so much for coming. Good to see everyone.